Boxing is all about pride. And in the countries of Mexico and Puerto Rico, they carry that flag very proudly and very prominently. So we want you to be proactive on this one, because I'm going to talk to Roy Jones and Antonio Tarver about their top 5 Puerto Rican, their top 5 Mexican boxers of all time. Roy, you get the choice. You want to start with Mexico or Puerto Rico? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot there.
Let's start with Puerto Rico.
All right. Then you fire away.
Well, it's not in no particular order, but my top 5 Puerto Rican fighters would be Wilfredo Gomez, Tito Trinidad, Miguel Cotto, Hector Macho Camacho, and Wilfred Benitez. That would be my top 5.
Top 5. How about you? What do you think?
I'm right on the same lines. You can't not have Trinidad way up top. Cotto, Hector Camacho was one of the more flashiest, had more flair than any. And Wilfred Benitez, 17-year-old world champion. And the way he dismantled Duran puts him in there. And, Edwin Rosario, I remember those days.
Yes,
that was
sir.
like when I really fell in love with boxing.
Yeah. If boxing were a video game, they'd say about Edwin, right? Yeah.
All those fights that he had, those would be my top 5.
Okay.
And not any order, but I love all those fighters I just named.
Cotto and Trinidad, similar in their viciousness, Roy?
Yeah, very similar in their viciousness. It's just that I think Trinidad may have had power in both hands. Cotto more was the left hand. So I think they're both similar in their viciousness, but I give the edge to Trinidad because of power in both hands. But now, some people say Cotto had a better chin. So who says?
We all know they're on every list. That's the one thing. They are on everyone's top 5 list.
And part of my knowledge as a kid was the best defensive boxer I had ever seen in my life was Wilfredo Benitez.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I studied Wilfredo Benitez a long time as a kid, because defensively, when you 18 years old, 19, 17 years old world champion.
Yeah.
But he might have been 19, 20, I ain't sure how old he was, but when Sugar Ray Leonard, as fast as he was, can't hit you, you got to have some pretty good nagging defense. You feel me?
Yep.
He had a hell of a defense.
And he certainly did.
One of the greatest of all time, in my opinion.
No question. Yep. No question. When the showman of showmen in Puerto Rico is obviously Hector. I mean, Hector turned it up to another notch. Macho time. It's macho time. And it's not your time if you were the opponent.
Right.
Did his, not to the purist, but did his flash and dash overshadow how truly great of a skillful and tactical boxer he was? The show was great, but do we sometimes forget that it started by him being great inside the ring? That's why he could have fun outside it.
No, that was a combination
Good.
of
Yeah,
both.
that's what I was hoping you would say.
Because that made him who he was. That made him different. That type of sure confidence within, and then he let that out, and then he was able to perform at a high level. I mean, that's entertainment at its best. Now, guess what? He was noted as a knockout puncher. Right. So why was he so entertaining? See, people say boxing is boring. You got to know what you're looking at. I mean, he had hand speed. He could control any fighter with his movement, and that wasn't art, because it's a lost art if you're looking at these fighters today. Footwork is something that they probably don't even, really relish in today's game. But Hector Camacho was so fast, his rhythm, it was just a beautiful thing to watch, man.
Benitez, you talked about how much you admired him. He was pretty much the king of the 15-rounders because of that great defense. Yep. But there was an American fighter. He was a superstar. They call him Superman, and I believe he was a showman too. I believe he rapped and utilized his own rapping skills for his walk-in. I can't remember who that was.
And got some of his dressing ideas from the late, great Hector Camacho.
There we go.
You understand me? So some of my ideas came from watching Camacho back as a kid.
Yeah. So, and that's actually the point that I was making, that Hector kind of put that pizzazz on the map in the boxing world, and many like yourself said, hey, this looks fun, let's do it.
Not only did it look fun, but it was entertaining, like Tarver said. It was entertainment outside of just the skill set. You feel me? Some people only can entertain the skill set. He entertained from the dress, from the way of life. I even think Floyd stole some of his way of life, and they put it on TV, and that's what made Floyd blossom. Because he stole from what Camacho did in that form of way of life thing. You know what I mean? So his way of life was very different, and it was known by a lot of people. Just never put on TV, but it was known.
Yes. So we want you at home to agree, disagree, add a couple names that maybe you feel that were left out. Our own ProBox TVs, Ivan Calderon, smaller weight man from Puerto Rico, but successful and a ton of fun to watch. And Antonio, highly respected in his home country, no doubt about that.
Most definitely. And see, we got to pick 5.
Yeah.
But there's not, in any order.
Well, it's going to get tougher when we get to Mexico.
Yeah, any order they can go.
It's tough now in Puerto Rico.
No, I know. Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
And so these are the guys that you want to put on that list, but then you got your favorites. We all ranking them with our hearts, you know what I mean? Because we remember how they, influenced us. And like Roy was saying, if you want to be a great fighter, get a little bit of everything from these great fighters, like Roy, you know what I mean? Like James Toney, don't be afraid to steal and get what makes them great, add it to your game. But then again, you got to make it your own. So how you make it your own is with your own IQ. But don't be afraid to grab from these great fighters, man, because you can learn a lot from them.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Yep.
Plain and simple. But you have to mold it and make it work for yourself. So we talked about Gomez, considered by many the greatest super bantamweight of all time. Trinidad, Camacho, Cotto, Carlos Ortiz, you could put on that list. Benitez, talked about her own Ivan Calderon. Amanda Serrano in a different category. I mean, she's done a little damage, hasn't she, Roy?
A whole lot of damage. A whole lot of damage.
Yep.
If you put the women in, she definitely could probably go on that list.
Yep, absolutely. And then Rosario, and we go from there. So that is our list for now for Puerto Rico from Superman and the Magic Man. We want to know your thoughts. Link it up. Go to the comments and tell us if you agree, disagree, and tell us why. Tell us why. And tell me who had the better showmanship. Was it Macho or was it Superman? I know what, I know where I'm going.
Macho was a bad boy, though.
Yeah, yes, he was. And I just watched the documentary on it. Recently again, and you forget how fun it truly was.
And he inspired me greatly. Yeah. Without people like them, there would be no Roy Jones.
There you go. And that's when legends talk about the legends previous. That warms my heart, Antonio. That warms my heart.
That's what it's all about.
You're tuned into the ProBox TV Podcast.
So let's go to Mexico. And when you go to Mexico, so many of these great Mexican fighters will say, it was Julio Cesar Chavez that inspired me, that showed me what I wanted to be inside the ring. So undoubtedly, he's on your top 5.
Most definitely. The generation
it's kind of like
now,
Goldie.
The generation now will say Canelo, but you have to go back.
Yeah.
Chavez had his career spanned over 25 years. I mean, the man was on top for so long and was one of the true pound for pound kings in the game in his day.
Yeah.
But now Canelo, for obvious reason. Probably the richest Mexican boxer that they've had.
Very
made
true.
As much money as anybody. And when you look at his lifestyle, that's what all people aspire to be. So you can see why Canelo is on everybody's list. But that list get deep again. When you're looking at guys like Salvador Sanchez, who was one of my favorite all-time fighters, and unfortunately he passed unexpectedly at a young age. But the things and the legendary fights that he was having at his age, we don't know if he would have had 10 more years. Will we even be talking about who's number 1 on that list? Because he probably would have filled that slot
no question.
Easily.
I mean, may he rest in peace. His record in world title fights, 11-0 with 5 knockouts.
That says it all.
Yeah.
That says it all. I mean, Julio Cesar Chavez, Canelo for me, Salvador Sanchez, Marco Antonio Barrera, and the great Eric Morales will probably round out my top 5. But hey, we can fill that top 5 with 10 more Mexican greats.
Yes. Including Juan Manuel Marquez that I want to get to in a moment. But Antonio brought up a great point, like you talked about with the flash and the dash that you admired so much about Hector. Saul Canelo Alvarez gained a lot of fans and a lot of love because he did grow up in a difficult fashion, very similar to Julio Cesar Chavez. And that nation really pulls together as a unit on those who have come from so little and gone so far, Roy.
Of course, and it's a beautiful thing to see because that's a lot of great boxers' background. They come from nothing, and when they make it in boxing, they become something. And that's the true story. That's why all the movies about boxing do so well, because they start from stories of nothing, no chance, and they make it. And that's the biggest struggle in life. So many people wake up every day saying, how am I going to make it? But when you finally make it through something, you're like, wow, I finally made it. Boxing has been an outlet for so many people.
Yes.
When they do say that you created the style of boxing for your country, though, Mexican style of boxing, Julio Cesar Chavez, that's a nice little tag to have.
Yeah, it's a very good tag to have, but his record alone itself says more than anything because he got so many fights. First time I seen him, I think he was like 80-0. I'm like, wow, I ain't seen this in a long time.
Yeah.
Pro boxer, 80-0, that's amazing for anybody. I mean, how could you get to be 80-0? Can you find anybody? You can't find guys that can beat 30 bombs nowadays. And he 80-0?
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
That's deep.
You had to find somebody that could fight unless you fought the same man every time. And he didn't fight the same man every time. Somebody on that list had to be able to fight.
Yeah, you ain't gonna be that lucky that long, huh?
Somebody had to be able to fight. So that's saying a lot.
And the way he walked his opponents down was something we hadn't seen in that style before, because it wasn't a switch stance, but he just marched down, he threw from both sides, and that guy's body hurt for a year.
I ain't gonna say we hadn't seen that before, because I promise you that Roberto Duran did the same thing.
True.
He walked you down, and once you get to your son, you got real problems. Maybe more problem you had when Chavez got to you. So, I mean, I had seen it before, just not from a Mexican fighter like that. But honestly, I can't say it because Salvador used to walk you down too.
Yeah.
And Salvador was back in the early 80s. He died in 82. So Salvador Sanchez was my favorite because I was a kid watching him.
Yes.
You understand me? So it's like you said with the Puerto Rican list. The Spanish list, the Mexican list, can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you the five that I can think of off top. But I promise you, there are guys like Yaki Lopez that I thought the world of back in my day. You feel me? Come from guys that we forget about. I mean, Carlos Palomino, I thought the world of back in my day. You feel me? Lupe Pintor, I thought the world of back in my day. So it's a lot of guys that we forget about. So for my top five that I can remember that I've seen, probably most would be Salvador Sanchez, Julio Cesar Chavez, Canelo Alvarez, Marco Antonio Barrera, and I probably, for that fifth spot, there's a lot of people that could go there, but because I work with them all the time, I got to put one more kids there. You feel me?
Yeah. And even though it was a couple of classes that went in together, you guys did have the honor of going into the Hall of Fame on the same weekend.
Exactly. So
that had to be special.
It was very special.
That had to be special.
And Miguel Cotto. So.
And Miguel Cotto. That's right. It was all represented on the top five list and
all the way around the board
in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
In the Hall of Fame. So again, we want to get your thoughts, and I know I see you, Antonio, getting ready. We want to know your thoughts on our greats top five lists, and they are all great. And to limit it to five in these great fighting nations is obviously very difficult to do. But I like what Roy said. You tend to gravitate towards the ones that you loved as a kid, though. The ones that hit you at a time before you were really doing it. The ones that you watched with wide eyes, with maybe with your dad, maybe with the family, maybe grandpa. But those are the ones that resonate and really hit your soul, right, Antonio? Those are the ones that make you go, wow, that dude is what it's all about. I was a Bobby Clark fan growing up. Bobby Clark was my guy, ward number 16. Got my teeth knocked out as a peewee, begged my mom not to fix them. She's like, son, mom. And I'll take you one even before that. My first book report was on Bobby Orr, Perry Sound, Ontario. My second was on Bobby Clark, Flin Flon, Manitoba. I was 8, 9 years old. And I went running to my mom. And I go, Mom, how do I get diabetes? And she said, what? I go, how do I get diabetes? Son, what are you talking about? I go, I just did a book. Bobby Clark is diabetic, Mom. And Bobby Clark is the greatest hockey player in my mind. I still wear 16. If I lose my wallet, you see, there's not a lot in the bank, but if you get my card, 1616, it's going to work, Roy. But that's how much I love the guy. But that's what I mean by those are the ones that really bring you back to being a kid and being a true fan of the sport in which defines you?
Yeah, when we started out, man, we it was just a dream. You know what I mean? But it was those fighters that we emulated in training. We tried to do everything like these fighters, but maybe we could never get there. But it didn't stop us from trying. So you get these visions of being a champion, of winning this big fight, and you really pattern it after the guys you've seen. You know, Ali, no matter what, I don't care how the fight was going, we believe that if he had one round, he can pull it out. Yep. And we never stopped believing. I don't care if it was the 14th round. That's how we were programmed. Ali, he's never out of the fight, no matter who he is, who he's in there with. And that's what we truly believe as kids. So we never forget how they touched us.
So the top 5 has been given by our big 2, the Magic Man, Antonio Tarver, 5-time world champion, the Hall of Famer, the 9-time world champion, Roy Jones Jr. And again, we want to get your thoughts on the list. Give us yours, disagree, agree, give us some reasoning. The more you talk to us fans, the more we can talk back to you and answer your questions, because it's what it's all about. We are here for the fighters, and we are here for you fans. It's time to fight.
Never miss an episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. ProBox TV.